Hi.
Hey, hello.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Good. You seem bright.
I have notes.
Okay. Well, today we're doing videos 23 through 27. Is that right? Or 24 through 27?
Yeah, I think it's 23 through 27,
23.
but
Okay.
doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's all good. So, shoot. What do you got for me?
Okay. So, I'm just gonna read it. It says, "I love the idea that you're not feeling wanted or good enough or smart enough to look at it just being an obstacle to change or a goal. It creates a new higher perspective that just helps you to see the truth. And now we can be brave and move forward with less fear and more joy." I just heard today this guru, I don't know his name, but he's famous. It's sad that I don't know his name. But he said that we learn, it's like scientifically evident that we learn greatest in joy instead of, what some people may think, contrary to what some people may think. So
Yeah,
I like that.
well, when we're stuck and not good enough, then, generally speaking, we are also addicted to struggle, which means we need to have a struggle in order to feel fulfilled. Because the struggle perpetuates or validates our feeling that we're not enough. If I'm not enough to be a good student, or if I feel like everybody else is better than me at being a student, then when I go to hair college or barista school or regular college, whatever it is,
Yeah.
I'm going to struggle because I feel like I've got to do more work than everybody else.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, like a great poet could write like the world's best poem ever in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Because if there's no thought process, if it's just coming out of our mouth, it's usually perfect. But when we think about it a lot and try to make it good enough, and like if the poet spent years analyzing the grammar and trying to make that poem good enough, and then he releases it to the public, everyone goes, eh. It's really there's really no correlation between struggle and success. That's all a trick of the mind.
Right.
And
yeah,
that's when we're not feeling are not good enough, when we're just being ourselves and not wrapped up in those negative beliefs about ourselves, then we are naturally in joy. And then it's easy to learn because we're not filtering everything. Is this good enough for me to learn? Is this what I want to learn, or is something over there more good enough? I want to learn that instead. And that's a trick our minds play with us all the time. It creates struggle, and that guru, who that very memorable guru, whoever he is, he's right. When you're in joy, it's easy to learn. If I'm not stuck in my not wanted, not good enough, I can go do anything and try anything, and if I screw up, I'll just shrug my shoulders and keep trying because I'm learning. That's part of the fun.
right. Yeah.
It's way easier to learn when we're not stuck in our not enough. So much easier. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think that's been evident. A lot of kids struggle with difficulties at home, and then they can't learn as well because they have those things going on because they're always in their head. They learn to be always in their head. So I think that's common for a lot of people, even just for simple things like that.
I know a couple dozen people who went through massage school. And even if they get through massage school, and even if they pass the exam, the state exam to be licensed, they still feel not good enough. And it's still a huge struggle for them to get clients and to advertise. Like, if you feel not good enough or not wanted, it's so hard to put your face on a poster and hang it in the coffee shop. Because now you're
Right.
exposing you're not wanted, you're not good enough to everybody. And my experience is that about half or more of the people that take a specific class to learn a specific skill, learn the skill but then never use it.
Right.
Because they feel like they didn't get it
Yeah.
good enough to share with others. But that also is a trick of the mind.
Yeah, I've seen that. I tend to be the opposite of that. I just want to like go intuitively constantly, and so when I have to learn something, I'm like, oh, really? Like this has been like a big undertaking for me.
Mm-hmm.
I've taken it, somewhat seriously. I've enjoyed it though. But like I really want to make sure I get it, because
Right.
I feel like it's really going to make things a lot easier. Because I do like who I am. I don't really struggle with that anymore, because I've worked so hard basically to be who I am. I like who I am. I like who I've developed.
Mm-hmm.
So, but sometimes those thoughts creep in, like, oh, I'm socially awkward came to me today, and I'm like, I'm not normally, like, sometimes I guess. Like I'm like arguing with it in my head, like, wait a minute.
Well, and that's a perfect example of how not good enough creeps in subtle ways, because it takes two to tango. To have a socially awkward situation, you have to have two people, right? And yet our mind automatically blames us.
Yeah.
And that's that's actually really funny, and it's a funny thing to notice too. I mean, awkwardness takes two.
And when you look at it later, you will laugh, right? Like
Right.
when you're over the, I'm awkward.
Exactly. Exactly. How it translates for me, like how this has worked out for my life, is that in my past, I would really want to get things right the first time. So I would take a lot of time to make sure I really understood, like that bookshelf I bought at the store. I really want to read the directions and make sure like I understand and have all the pieces, and then I'm going to, measure twice and cut once, so to speak. And now I don't even look at the directions. Now I just do whatever I want, and I notice the mistakes along the way and correct them. So today I would take that same bookshelf and just start pulling out pieces and start hammering them together and go, oh wait, that's not right. Take it apart and do it again.
Right.
And totally enjoy that process. But that process of discovering that I did something wrong and then how do I unpack this to get it right, that used to terrify me. I wasn't even aware that I was terrified. I just knew I had to get it right the first time,
Right.
So now, I mean, you should see my garden. It changes every week. I'm like planting stuff and ripping it out and planting it somewhere else. Because I don't like the whole thing around planning anymore. It's such a planning requires referencing the past and also having expectations for the future, and I've really swung the other way. I'm like trying to flush all of that out right now and find out what happens when I just jump in and just do whatever. And I'm learning a lot faster. I'm totally loving gardening way more than I did 6 months ago.
Oh, cool. Another question, and I've just been writing statements, it looks like, so.
So what's the next statement? We'll figure out the question.
I said, when I get excited, I realize I'm not exhaling. Not good enough. That's what I took from that, which is really funny. Like I don't exhale, and my thought that came from that is maybe I'm not good enough. I must have wrote this yesterday or the day before that. I hadn't really gone over it. It's cracking me up now. So I mean, it was just an interesting observation. Like I get around a lot of people. This is probably why I thought it was socially awkward. Like I get around a lot of people for even in the studio when I'm doing sound healing and stuff, and it's like a bunch of friends and I'm having fun and I just don't exhale. It's so funny, and I'm like, why am I not doing that? But if I just take the time to do that, it's fine. But it's just a habit I've developed, I guess.
Well, yeah, I would notice too. I mean, it could be that somewhere deep in your body, there's the thought that you're going to lose your excitement if you exhale. Like you might exhale your excitement. It could be.
Yeah.
I used to, before I did my breathwork training, I used to think of breath as, we take energy in on the exhale and we send energy out on our exhale. And that's happening, that's true, that's happening in terms of oxygen, But in terms of
Right.
life energy, you actually take it in on an inhale and you take it in on your exhale. It's more of a water, what do they call things? They get water out of the ground, the water
Yeah.
pump. The water pumps when you pull the handle up, and the water pumps when you push the handle down. The water comes on both instances, and it's the
That's
same.
a good word picture.
It's the same thing with energy. You
Cool.
know, you take energy in when you exhale. You take energy in when you inhale, and there are things you can do with your breath that are magical. You can push your excitement out with your breath. If you want to get rid of something, you send it out with an exhale. But that doesn't happen all the time. It doesn't have to happen. You can exhale and not lose anything.
Right. That's interesting.
And well, when we see each other in person, we'll do exercises, and I'll show you, what that feels like, what that looks
Okay,
like.
cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Cool.
All right, and then there's forced separation creates the excuses for no change or chance to experience what you want. I don't even remember writing that. It does feel impossible, but knowing how it started is so eye-opening and empowering.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was
You're talking about the.
that was from. Yeah, I read that from your video.
Right.
You called it forced separation.
Well, we're talking about the. We're talking about the.
Someone calling me.
Oh,
Sorry.
that's okay. We're talking about the experience at birth of being separated from mom, like leaving the womb, that enforced separation, which I think is video 20. And how
24.
24. 24 is avoiding change.
It came up there.
Oh, got you. Okay. Yeah, well, the experience of birth that generates our initial feeling of being not wanted or not good enough. If we say go to school for the first time, like the first time I went to school, oh my gosh, first grade or kindergarten, whatever it was, I was a total wreck. But here I was. That was enforced. Like I had to leave the house and I had to go to this new place where I didn't know anybody and everything was completely unfamiliar. And I totally lost my mind. I mean, I was crying. It's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which
Me too. I did that.
Yeah, it's probably exactly what we did when we were born. It was because it was basically the same experience.
Right.
And lots of times when we're avoiding change, we're simply trying to avoid that experience again. But the fact of the matter is, like, we're adults, and that experience can bleed in even when there's a change that we desire to have. Oh, I really want to go do this thing I've never done before. And then you go to do it, and suddenly you start noticing like how unfamiliar it is, and how you start maybe feeling like you don't belong, or you start, like there's all these thoughts will try to pull us back to our comfort zone.
Yeah.
Well, when you understand how that began, like you said, when you understand how that began with the birth trauma, then when it happens, you can just stop and go, oh wait, this is my birth trauma being replayed. What's exciting and unfamiliar here that's scaring me? And then make it familiar. I mean, if you meet somebody who's a totally different personality and looks totally different than anybody you've ever hung out with before, your body's going to be a little worried. You're going to be like wondering if it's safe or not. But if you maintain breath and just keep noticing that you're safe, it doesn't take long for any feelings of not wanted, not good enough to go away.
Right.
Those thoughts are just there to keep us safe, which means avoiding unfamiliar territory. If you make something familiar, there's no reason for those thoughts to come back. So one way to, corral those thoughts is to repeat things and make them familiar. Like last time I talked about, if you never go into this grocery store because they don't speak English, like go in the grocery store and find out what happens. Do something you don't normally do. But the first time you go in there, you're gonna feel like you don't belong. That's
right.
I mean, but you're doing that on purpose. You're trying to activate that. You're trying to activate your negative thoughts about yourself. But then if you go back to that grocery store every week for a month, by the fourth or fifth visit, you're going to be on a first name basis with the cashier. You're going to know where things are, and it's going to be your favorite grocery store. Maybe.
Yeah.
But it certainly will become, well, it'll become familiar, and then those thoughts
Yeah.
won't come back.
Right. Yeah, it's just practice with that kind of thing.
It is, but the purpose of doing the exercise is to prove to yourself that those thoughts aren't based in reality right now. They're just being recycled from the past.
Right.
Once you really get that, once your body really feels like, oh, that's just a recycled thought, it isn't real right now, it becomes much easier to shift, much easier to let go of when it shows up. And eventually it just doesn't show up anymore. Eventually you can just go do whatever you want, and the thought about not belonging or not being good enough just won't occur to you. It just doesn't occur to you. You just do what you want. And that's ultimately, that's the freedom that this workshop is shooting for. Or I'd say it's one aspect of it.
Yeah, and one of the things that I heard today, I was doing stuff and listening to things while I was doing it, and one of the other things that I heard that I thought was so good was that your nervous system knows that it's not true. And I think that's really cool because that's something that, like, I can always tune into my body. I'm used to feeling the sensations, and that helps me ground, and I like that because, I can feel my vibration again instead of whatever my head's doing. And so, so when I do that, I can check in a sense, to feel what it feels like. Is this probably not true, or am I just putting walls up so that, like, I can protect myself? Distinguishing the difference sometimes might be needed.
And if you try to think the difference, try to use your mind to measure and compare, you might go a little crazy. But if you just notice how it feels in your body, it'll become more obvious. And discernment, it just improves with time and with practice.
Right.
But generally, if you are intellectually believing something that isn't true, you feel your energy, your body will literally start to feel heavier, and it'll just the feeling in my body is that the energy kind of washes out. I just feel like, ugh. Yeah. But if I believe something that's true, my spine gets straight. I get this like little feelings of elation. Doesn't matter what it is. It's like if I go into the pastry shop and I look at the eclairs, and I'm like, I want an eclair. My body's like, oh no, you don't. I can feel my body go, oh no, don't eat that eclair. I look at the pear tart, go, oh, I want a pear tart.
Really crap if you eat that.
Right, but if I look at the pear tart, my body goes, oh yeah, pear tart with the almond filling. Oh yeah, we want that one. It's.
Yes.
But it's not just about food. It applies to people. It applies to jobs. It applies to situations. It applies to thoughts. It applies to decisions. It applies to everything.
Yeah. I guess that's what I meant.
Yeah.
It applies to the thoughts. Yeah.
Well, and that's the overarching concept here: is your body never lies.
Right.
What we're unraveling here. One thing that happens with birth trauma is that it sticks us in our head. It makes us want to measure and compare everything and try to figure out and make sure it's good enough and make sure we want it. But that's the dark ages. that's living with a bag over our head trying to figure out, well, what's wrong with the world. Well, we can't even see the world. How would we know? But what we're doing is we're taking our attention off of that need to measure and compare and putting that attention on how does my body feel with this? And that's it. That's it. If you go with how your body feels, my body feels really great when I look at the pear tart. Good, get the pear tart, right? But now if I eat the pear tart, I'm like, oh, that was too much sugar. Oh, great, I've got new information. Next time I go to the pastry shop and I look at the pear tart, my body's going to go, oh, maybe not so much, right? There's new information. Like,
now remember what that felt like.
Right, but that's a new truth. Now it's true that, maybe the pear tart's not what I want today. Maybe I should just get bread. But that this allows us to stay in the moment and be present with what our body needs and desires right now. I know, like it's different. Like me going into a pastry shop and noticing which one my body gets most excited about and going with that. That's a lot different than me deciding as a kid, oh, pear tart is my favorite. I'm going to get pear tart every time now.
Yes.
Which is what most of us do with our friends, with school, with our jobs, with our cars, and we just get in a rut doing the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah.
But that's the nature of familiarity. Is like if we keep things familiar, then we don't have to feel not good enough. The good news is that when you get rid of not good enough, you no longer have to stay in familiar territory. You can just, if you've never been to a corn maze, now you can go to a corn maze and be comfortable, not be worried about what might happen. And intellectually, we know nothing's going to happen in a corn maze, but our body doesn't know that. Our body will literally be like, I don't want to go in there. What is this? It doesn't matter. Intellectual decision making doesn't matter to the body. The body is really runs on sensations and emotions, feelings, vibrations. It doesn't run on decisions and intellectual measuring and comparing. You can measure you can go to the grocery store, measure and compare every single piece of fruit, and intellectually decide, oh, that strawberry is the best one for me. And then when you go to eat it, your body goes, ugh. Because it's not what your body wants. But intellectually, it might seem to be the best thing to do, but maybe your body's had enough strawberries. Maybe your body wants, a slice of bread. But we have to get we have to get out of our head to feel what our body really wants.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay, I didn't mean to overstate that.
No, it's cool. So I think I wanted to add to that. That what we're doing through this workshop might very well just be restoring the intelligence, evolving the nervous system. Like it's like we're actually evolving in this way, that we don't sit there and entertain everything the mind wants to take us on, whatever journey the mind wants to take us on. Mm-hmm. We can move forward in a more intelligent way, a different type of intelligence.
Absolutely. And really our past need to measure and compare everything to make sure it's safe or to make sure it's good enough, make sure it's what we want, that has actually suppressed our ability to feel our nervous system and to feel what our body wants and to feel body sensations. I can walk down the street and I can feel who's got a TV on. I can feel TVs through walls. It drives me crazy. I have to shut that ability off sometimes if I go to the big city. I've got to shut that off. But I can also feel, those people are arguing. There's only one person home, they're lonely over there. Like these sorts of body sensations, emotional qualities, we can feel those, but we can't feel them if we're in our head, measuring and comparing. You can't look at a house and measure and compare everything you see and figure out if the people inside are arguing or if they're having a fun time, nor can you tell how many people are inside the house. That information just isn't available to the intellect. If you shut all that off and just notice body sensations and look at a house and tune into it, you can feel, it feels like there's two people home and they're having a good time. You may or may not be right, doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter, but you're getting information that's true for you, and you can move on. And when you do this work, you end up finding out that you're right most of the time.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm really enjoying this.
Good. It's fun, isn't it? It's fun to walk down the street and just know what's going on and not have to think about it. You just know. Just know.
I definitely had that happen lots of times. Like I almost argue with it. Like, okay, what is it? Like, what the heck is over there?
Right.
Like, what's in the store or what's on that table? Like, what is it? Just tell me.
Yeah. Mine wants to be in charge. Mine wants to measure and compare, and make sure it's good enough. But, it's the more you ignore the mind, the less it tries to jump in. And I don't mean to make, I don't want to make the intellect totally wrong, because it's not. I mean, intellect has its place.
No.
But it doesn't belong on the altar. It doesn't belong at the highest place in our, I don't know, our totem pole or our pantheon, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Good.
Should we move on to 25?
Sure. Sounds like the workshop is working.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Good.
It is. You know, last night I just played the workshop next to my head while I slept. I'm like, I'm just gonna just do this.
For the viewers at home, I just want to repeat that familiarity requires repetition, and anything you can do to create more familiarity will make this material a lot easier. So yeah, listening to it while you sleep, that's one more repetition. That's another level of familiarity that's going to help out just with the understanding and experience of it.
Well, and I'm already familiar with it enough that I know that there's no walls I need to put up. I don't have to
Right.
I don't have to be wary that something's going to come into my head that I don't want there.
Oh, well, thank you.
You know what I mean?
I'll take it as a compliment.
If I'm going to listen to a hypnosis something or other, I want to know what the words are.
Right, for sure.
Like that kind of thing. So, I wasn't concerned, and I just thought, oh, well, that might actually be a good way to reinforce it. But it was funny this morning that I woke up with that thought that I was socially awkward. I'm just socially awkward, aren't I? And I was thinking, well, sometimes, but not always. No. I started arguing with it right away. Oh my God.
Well,
so we're on to self-judging. Number 25.
Right, and that's perfect.
Measuring and comparing the good and bad as referencing the past projects. It's so helpful to have this information. I really do think that I'm getting a hang of it. The measuring and comparing can really sneak in, because it's like you feel like, oh, well, this is discernment, but it's not necessarily.
No.
Even that needs discerning.
Well, let's step back for a moment and talk about that social awkwardness that you perceived. Well, this workshop increases our self-awareness. And so you may have been unconsciously ignoring your awkwardness before, and suddenly you can't ignore it anymore, and you realize, oh, I've been socially awkward. But that's a wonderful thing to realize, because just being aware of it shifts it. So, I mean, you're interacting differently with people now than you were a month ago because you had that realization. And now, video 25, don't self-judge. So here's the thing. You don't want to start measuring and comparing and go, oh, I used to be really awkward. Now you've just stuck yourself in the past. And now, I mean, I'm just imagining for myself, if I suddenly realize I'm socially awkward, and now when I go to hang out with my friends, if I'm judging myself about how I used to be awkward, it's going to be hard to interact with them, because I'm going to start thinking, oh, what do they think of me? What did they think of me being so awkward? What are they going to, are they going to allow me to be less awkward? Are they still going to like me? That's all judgment, though. That's all measuring and comparing. Oh, is this new way of being good enough? That's a funny thing that happens when you realize something about yourself and you shift it. Now you're in a new place. Well, being in a new place activates the negative thought. Is this new place good enough for me? Did I shift enough to no longer be awkward? That's also measuring and comparing. It's a small can of worms, but it's still a can of worms. And I think that brings us into the next video about the cascade, or that might be next week. I'm not sure. But the beautiful thing about going into unfamiliar territory or in shifting how we perceive or in how we behave is that it'll reactivate the negative thought of being not wanted or not enough in some way. And we do that purposefully to recognize, oh, this is how my birth trauma impacts my adult life. But when you realize, oh, this this feeling of not being good enough because I'm awkward, that's just my ego collecting evidence to prove its original thought at birth.
Yeah.
And just recognizing that, it can be enough for it to just go away. You know?
Yeah, I think a lot of it just is coming up to clear. I had, I'm certain a baby thought come up about being like maybe I was giving a reason for not being good enough or wanted as like being dirty, and I thought that's so interesting. Like, what baby doesn't come out of the womb dirty unless they're born in water, right? It's so interesting, like that may have occurred to me from the beginning, you know, and because I was adopted is what I thought, and then like I was in foster care and then went to my parents, and I thought, I wonder if I just perpetuated that thought, because somebody said something about that the dirty water from the lotus doesn't matter to God at all, just doesn't matter, and I like bawled like literally like a baby for like a minute. And then I was done, and I was like, that had to be a baby thing, because like I couldn't understand it. It was just it was like a baby cry. Like It was like an indescribable baby cry for like just a minute, you know, and then it was done, and I was like, wow, I was just wowed by it. You know, because it just came up to clear, and then it was gone. So like stuff like that's still happening, I guess. You know, I feel stuff leaving my body all the time.
It still happens for me too.
Does it?
Well, I think I said last time that if you have a body, you have something to let go of. And I don't mean let go of the body.
Right.
But I mean, you know, like we're here to learn lessons and to figure stuff out. And there's always something more to figure out about ourselves, about our place in the world, and especially if that is always expanding. You know,
it's part of the growth process.
Right. What the joy of life for me is growing.
It's easier to have that process, right? Like if we didn't have this process, I mean, no wonder some people only go so far, and other people can go further. You know, because they have this ability to process without their brain getting in the way. It does. It gets easier.
Yeah. This work becomes much, much more easier. And partly it's because we'll get a body sensation and we don't know what it is. And so then our intellect attaches to it. And then we think that the intellectual understanding or explanation is the reality. But it usually isn't.
Yeah, there's no way that last thing was. The baby cry was not a thing. Like that was not from me. It was from a past thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And when we get triggered by something, I mean, obviously, like when we get triggered by something, then we just jump into our head to unravel it or figure it out. But once we're in that place, we really stop perceiving what's going on with our body. And now when we're triggered, we're all up in our head and not feeling what's going on. Or what we're feeling is this anger or this upset, but that usually gets the mind spinning, and then the mind perpetuates it.
Yeah.
And that's an extreme example, but in a more subtle example, if you go to eat some food and it doesn't feel right in your body, if you stay with the feeling and don't think about it and just notice the feeling, you'll be able to discern, well, does this not feel good because the food is bad, like it's actually gone rotten? Or does this not feel good because it looks like a meal I had when I was a kid right before I got beat up, and so now my body's afraid I'm going to get beat up? Or does it look like food that my grandma made, that I wasn't allowed to eat as a kid, and so now I feel like I'm doing something wrong? Like discerning what the feeling is in the body, that's totally possible and understandable if we don't think about it. But, if you go to do something and you get a bad feeling in your body, then your intellect jumps on it and starts judging and starts measuring and comparing. You're like, oh, I don't want to eat this because it's bad. We just label it. We don't know why it's bad, it's just bad. And that is what prevents change. And for most people, that keeps us from enjoying what's unfamiliar, because going into unfamiliar territory puts a sensation in the body like we don't belong. And so then we intellectualize it. We make those people wrong, or we make being here wrong, or we come up with an excuse of why we have to leave. But it's all based on a feeling in the body that's not actually understood. And that's a big intellectual explanation of something that's not intellectual at all.
Yeah.
Was I clear there?
I think I got confused there at the end. I'm going to re-listen to it because I feel like I'll have to do that. But,
well, if I go to drink some juice and I sip the juice and my body rejects it immediately, I have, if I'm just in my body and not thinking about it, I don't measure and compare, I'm just like feeling my body's sensation, I might notice, oh, that juice is really sweet and I didn't want all that sugar. Or I might notice, oh, I was expecting orange juice and this is pear juice. Ew, weird.
Right, yeah.
But you have to feel it in your body, and you have to look in the cup and get the information to feel what's really going on. But most of us are not in our body. Most of us are stuck in our head. And so we take a sip of something, we don't know what it is, and it feels bad in our body, and so then we throw the cup across the room. Or we say, oh, that was terrible, and we run away, and we never find out what was really going on. All we know is that it didn't feel good, and so we went and did something else. And I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit to make a point, but this happens with a lot of things.
Right.
It happens with what part of town we go shopping in. It happens with what bars we go to, what kinds of people we like to hang out with, what kind of music we listen to.
Yeah.
I mean, I am so grateful to have these online music streaming services where I can go listen to music I have never heard before. Yeah. And not actually have to pay for it, which is nice. It used to be really hard to hear new music when you had to take money out of your pocket, to hear it. But now, I can hear Kawali or whatever stuff I may not have listened to before and absolutely love it. But, when we first put on that station, that kind of music we've never heard before, it feels really odd. Like it might grate us. It might go, oh, I don't want to hear that. But if you give stuff a chance and let it become familiar, we can find out, like, oh, wow, that music's really good. Yeah. And here, I can't, I thought of this example last night. I'm glad I just remembered. Going to a Chinese restaurant. So there's things I like. I love the General Tso's chicken. And I mean, there's other things too, but it used to be that when I went to a Chinese restaurant, that's what I got.
Right, that was it.
That was it. I love the General Tso's chicken. I only go once or twice a month, so of course I'm going to get what I want to have. The fact of the matter is, there's 40 other things on that menu.
Yeah.
There's not 39 bad things and one good thing. There's one thing that I'm familiar with. But this workshop and what we're doing here is giving ourselves a chance to close our eyes and just pick something random on the menu and give it a shot, even though it's completely unfamiliar. My point is that it was when my empathy increased, I suddenly realized one day that other people in the world, their favorite thing isn't the General Tso's chicken. Their favorite thing is the mugu gai pan, right? Or the shrimp fried rice, or something else. And it just occurred to me one day, I'm like, wow, this other thing that I've never tried before, there's probably hundreds of thousands of people in the world who that is their favorite, and that's what they get every time. So I'll order that thing just to see what it's like, just to imagine what it's like to have that as my favorite.
Yeah.
But I do this with people too. I'll pick out, like a personality type or a culture that I'm not familiar with and just jump in and try to make friends.
Yeah. Yeah, I always do that at parties. See what's going on. Yeah.
It's fun, but that's the kind of skill that we're looking to expand here. And just for viewers at home, just a random person watching this video, I'd like them to know what it is we're shooting for here.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I finished
Oh, I'm out of coffee.
Just being is allowing me to trust and continue as best as I can and continue to improve, and that's awesome and priceless to me. I think that's very true.
Excellent.
I'm learning how to just be a lot more than doing. That was one of the things that came up. A human being, not a human doing.
Right.
And when I realized just being a human doing, like that was making me crazy, you know? And so just to be there and more present made it so much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
And it is making it so much more enjoyable.
And we learn a lot more that way, right? About ourselves and about whatever we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's another slice of what this work is about. It's about going from human doing to human being. Well, I think we got through 27, I believe, right? 25? 26.
Yeah.
26 was self-judging.
Well, it's being the change. I don't think we did that. At
Okay.
least not from my notes. We could have covered it, though.
Well, we'll get back to it next week. But I think we probably have 3 more weeks to do. Because there's 37 videos, so we have like another 10 or 11 videos to get through, so maybe 2 or 3 more sessions.
Right, that's what I think, yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, I love watching your progress.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing with everybody. I'm sure people at home, who are doing the videos are loving these questions and hearing how it's flowing for you, so. Yay, it's great. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Okay, good.
Cool. Have a great day.
All right, you too.
All right, thanks, Sharon.
All right, bye.
Ciao.